Okay. All right, so we're up recording. So we talked about nouns. Now with nouns, what is the process called again? Declining. But with verbs, what do you do? Conjugate. Okay. So our topic for today is verbs.
For better or for worse. Why do you not decide to give us a test? I'm curious.
This is conjugations.
Conjugations, yes. All right, so that's the topic for today.
So wait, just Lou?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole reason you decide not to give us a chapter 10 test, or chapter 9 test is because you're just lazy?
No, that actually wasn't the reason. The real reason is that I think we really didn't cover all that much in chapter 9, and I think it would waste more time in trying to prepare you for a test that's like whatever, rather than moving ahead and learning new grammatical topics more quickly and getting more work done.
Okay, either way, cash for me. It's pretty cool.
Is character before career? Wait, where's Jason?
Yeah, where's Monty?
Yeah, we're missing Jason, Monty, and
He's
Zach
not gonna
today.
be here for a million years.
Zach has, well, I know Zach.
Okay, well, we're not going to talk about other people. We're going to talk about the here and the now. Okay, so verb conjugations. Now, when we talked about nouns, nouns belong to noun families. What do we call those noun families?
Oh, big declensions.
We call them declensions. All right, so let's apply that thinking, right? I think you guys do ratios. No. What do you call those questions on the SAT? Like this is to this as this is to this.
Double Jeopardy. No, it's
Analogy questions, thank you. Okay, so let's write our analogy out. Nouns are to declensions.
How about cases? Is there a thing that like is the same as cases in like
As verbs are to, if you conjugate a verb, then what do you call a verb family?
conjugation?
A conjugation, yeah. Okay, so that's our analogy. All right, today we're going to be working with those. Okay, now you kind of learned this already when we talked about infinitives. All right, what is the infinitive? What is the infinitive? Jade. Yeah, what is it? And if you don't know what it is, can you give me an example of one?
Is it to do?
To blank, to do something. Okay, so we'll put that in quotes. To blank. All right. Which principal part is that? We should backtrack, shouldn't we? Okay. All right, so let's talk about that. All right. I've given you, when I give you vocab lists, I'll usually give you verbs. How many parts does each verb usually have?
4.
4. Okay, so let's talk about what each of those things are. All right, so we've got amo. What's the second principal part of that?
Amare.
Amare. What's the third principal part?
Amari.
Mhm. Good. Okay, now each of these things represents something. All right, amo is just the first person singular in the present tense. Okay, and this translates to I love.
What?
It's not a sentence, it's just a word.
Yeah, but it's also empty like I love. I love. Beautiful.
Okay, the second principal part is the infinitive.
Wait, do I have to take this down?
I did not say otherwise, so the answer would be yes.
Miss Lou,
Yeah.
didn't you say that, to find, like, the base form of a verb using this, you just chop off the infinitive part and then use that as the root?
We're going to talk about that in a couple minutes, actually. So hold on to that thought. Okay, so the infinitive is just translated as to love here, right, to blank. And what's cool about it is the infinitive doesn't really have a tense. Okay, but what this principal part does is it provides you with the present stem. Okay.
Like you come with the I or whatever lay, that you get a stem.
All right. The third principal part is just the first person singular perfect tense. You don't have to know what that means right now, but just know that it does exist. And if you recall, it means
I love.
I loved. It's just the simple past.
Past tense.
Okay, and what this principal part does is it provides the perfect stem. Okay, and finally, the fourth principal part,
Is the third one the I
say that again?
Is that
VI, amawi, amawi. Okay, and the fourth, some people call it the supine. It's also the, usually, you can just write participle for now.
So weird.
Okay, just participle, just kind of stick with that. All right. Each of these principal parts is going to be used for something. It is important, and that's why I'm having you guys learn all four from the beginning rather than having you have to go back once we learn each of these grammatical things and relearn all the verbs, because that is just a colossal waste of time. Okay, yes.
what was that? Like what was the not choose?
Oh, how did you, loved. Okay, I love to love, I loved, loved. That's how you would translate that.
One
Wait. Oh, supine, S-U-P-I-N-E. Yeah, don't worry about what that means right now. It's kind of just a weird.
Possible to like expand on that part, the max.
Participle, whatever.
They can't really see what's underneath it.
Like that? Okay. Yes, Jack.
So participle is an adjective that's like taking place of the verb, right?
So think of a participle as a verbal adjective. So just a quick grammatical explanation. Like if I wanted to say the sitting cat glared at Tim Jin. Okay. Now, the actual verb of this sentence is not sitting, it's glared, right? But the participle is sitting.
It's active.
But to sit it's a verb, right? But it's acting as an adjective. It's describing what the cat is doing. Okay, so in English and in Latin actually, this is what we would call the present participle. Okay, it's a verbal adjective. So it comes from a verb, but it acts like an adjective. Does that answer your question, Jack?
So the past participle would be like the entire person.
In English, probably, but not in Latin. In Latin, it's a little different. There's only,
Yes, that is unique.
Latin, there's only 3.5 participles.
Oh,
Okay, good question. All right, I'm gonna get rid of this though.
What is the last two words?
Supine participle? Wait, where?
A-M-A-T-E.
Oh, say A-M-A-T-U-S. Amatuus. Sometimes you'll see amatum also, but that doesn't really matter, okay? Because when you learn what a participle, how they work, you'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, all good? All right, so the infinitive, all right, so each of these principal parts are very important. Okay, and usually they'll follow a specific pattern. Now, let's talk about conjugation.
Is there a verb conjugation?
Say that again? Is there an ending chart with
Declensions.
declensions apply to nouns? So are you asking about conjugations?
Maybe.
Maybe? Okay. Well, hang tight. It might become apparent to you in a moment. Okay, now, when we talked about infinitives,
Wait,
Alright.
wait, this like,
yes.
so how they conjugate are here, is 4?
Yep.
Just these ones?
4.5.
Half?
Yeah. Okay, and I'll talk about what they are now. Okay, now we've talked about these identifying a verb's conjugation because we've talked about infinitives before. Okay? So if a verb belongs to first conjugation, that infinitive is going to end in, anyone remember? Are. If a verb belongs to second conjugation, it's going to end in ere, strong E-R-E. Okay, third conjugation, no matter the type,
Ear.
is also ere, but it does not have a macron, it's weak.
How do you
Okay.
say it? Ere,
So it's
ear,
ere versus ere.
ere. That sounds so weak.
Okay, so it would be like videre versus exercere. Okay, do you hear the difference between like the strong E and the weak E? Okay. All right, last one. Fourth conjugation. Ire.
What the?
What does that sound?
It's my impression of a fury. Thoughts?
No, it's not very. A chipmunk on helium.
Okay,
I
so
mean, Miss Slade sounds like she's on.
I sound like I'm on helium every day. I don't know, I always thought I had a pretty deep voice.
You're deep sometimes.
But I could talk like this if you'd like. Would that make you pay attention more?
That would be better.
Damage your vocal
Ooh,
cords.
could
That
you-
would actually be better.
Better, it would definitely keep you awake, that's for sure. Yeah, I feel like my voice is too like soft and quiet.
Hey guys, it's me, Miss Slade.
You should shout like.
Wow, you make your voice go pretty deep, dude. That's pretty cool. Okay. Does this make sense? Do you need me to like belabor this? Do you understand?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write a couple of examples and you're going to identify what conjugation that verb belongs to based on the infinitive. Okay?
Oh good. Oh good.
What the heck?
British.
Go. Go.
Stop.
All right, so please write the examples also, or the practice problems.
But I don't have the paper.
Sounds like a you problem.
You sound like a mean girl from like a random high school movie.
What the heck?
I was a mean girl from a random high school at some point.
No.
How? You're so nice.
I wasn't.
Sometimes.
Okay. I was a little taken back.
Yeah, I thought you might be.
Did I
Ooh,
write all
skin
these
C.
examples down?
Skin to a skin did it. A skin D. A skin. Sus.
Scandal.
Okay, so next to it, all right. Remember, which principal part am I going to look to find what conjugation it belongs to? The infinitive. Okay, so this one ends in an E-R-E. Is it long or short?
Long.
Stop.
It's short, it's
Oh, I
weak,
didn't
it's
see the-
soft.
didn't have any comment.
Okay, so which conjugation is
Third
this?
conjugation.
So do you pronounce it like scandale?
So it's a scendere, not escendere. Okay.
There. That's
It's
weird.
like,
Yeah.
is the second letter S, B, or
Askendo, yeah. Askendo. This could also be practice in pronouncing, writing down what you hear.
Memories. Why did I waste so much papers?
You just gotta
Wait,
write
what's the
small.
third four? Behind the accent.
What?
What? Askensus.
Yeah, what's behind the accent?
What do you mean what's behind it?
Isn't there like a...
Nothing, this is two-dimensional. Nothing's behind it.
I mean like on the right.
On the third,
Capital.
Yeah, well,
I would pass.
it's third conjugation.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should write that just so that it's clear.
With apathetic.
That's cool.
Well, you have to be pathetic before you can be apathetic.
Apathetic means that the belief that you don't care about any religion. Which perfectly describes me.
Okay. Verbero, verberare, verberavi, verberatus. All right. The second principal part ends in A-R-E. So everybody, what conjugation is this?
first.
Good.
That's weird.
Yes.
There you go, rest.
Yeah. Okay, let's try another.
Millennial, not inventio.
Does this relate to the word invent?
It is
Oh.
related. It means to come upon or to find. And when you invent something, what are you actually doing?
Well, you kind of make a discovery.
Yeah, you're coming upon a way that something works. You're finding a way that something works. All right, so this verb, the second principal part ends in I-R-E, so which conjugation is this?
Fourth.
May the fourth be with you.
That's weird. Well, I'm weird.
What is you all?
Could you be quiet for class?
That's the weird. No.
Hiya.
I am nine.
I need 15 minutes.
24 minutes.
Don't ask me how because my math is terrible.
Michelle, do you think that one day no one's gonna teach Latin anymore?
Well, hopefully I'll be long dead by then.
No, wait, Robert, nobody's gonna what?
I have to leave them all late after.
Do you think one day no one's gonna teach Latin anymore?
I don't think so. I mean, we made it all the way to here, like hundreds of years later. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Miss Lake,
Okay.
do you want a fellow Latin teacher in your department?
Number 4, video videre, vidi visus. Okay, the infinitive ends in E-R-E, but it's strong. So what conjugation does this belong to?
Second.
Second. Okay, I'm going to do one more example, but I want you to kind of pay attention for a reason.
Okay.
What is moving? Why isn't it just staying? Wait, what does this word
What
mean?
was that, Jen?
To snatch, grab hold of, or
Do
seize.
you have like a pencil sharpener?
Okay. All right, this one, arripio, arripere, arripui, arriptus. All right, the infinitive ends in an ERE, but there's no macron. What conjugation is this? Third. Okay, but, whoops, that's not the pen. This is the pen. Okay, so it's third conjugation, but let me point something out here. Okay, look at the first example. That's also third conjugation, right? Okay, this first form just ends in the letter O, but number 5 ends in I-O. Okay, this is another subcategory of a third conjugation verb. It's just called third IO. So it's a third conjugation IO. That's what that means. All that's gonna do is like when we learn to conjugate, it kind of just changes the forms slightly. Okay, there's like a slight difference between
so
them.
Then how about four?
We have
Or not
fourth.
four, three. On the thing, three.
Oh, number 3 in Wenio.
When
Third is the only one that has third IO. So like first conjugation, second conjugation, and fourth conjugation are fairly regular and easy. It's third where things get a little wonky. Okay.
It's just like third because like
Similarly, yeah.
for 3, he or she does not deserve this treatment.
Okay. All right. Does this make sense to everybody?
Kind of.
Kind of? Okay. Let me,
We would label it with the IO on it, right?
I would, just to make the distinction.
Miss Slater, are you gonna give us the chapter 10 book I listed it?
Nope. Because I don't feel like, I don't think we should bother with learning that, like,
What about vocab?
give me a chance to think on it. Give me a chance to think on it.
That's good. Just like last time.
Okay. So now we've kind of learned, yeah.
I think this one.
So we've just learned about identifying conjugations. Now, let's talk about the actual process of conjugating a verb. Okay, we've talked about it before, right?
Didn't we do this in like chapter 5 or 4?
Probably.
We did like a quiz on that,
I think I just gave you the endings. I don't think I taught you the actual process.
That's something.
Okay. Okay, conjugating verbs in the present tense. That's what we're gonna stick with right now. Okay, conjugating verbs is a very simple process. All right, it's only 3/4 steps. Okay. Step 1. You gotta find the infinitive. Okay, and the infinitive is the second principal part. Okay, that's what PP stands for.
Why is this so funny?
Step 2. You pop off the
Pop it on.
RE. Okay, and then step 3.
Wait, only RE, not ARE? Like,
Correct. There's a reason why. Okay, that's why I talked about conjugations first, because that's going to play a role in what happens. Because you can tell a verb's conjugation without knowing what the infinitive is, if you know how to look for the stem. Okay.
Slade,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever played Pop the Pig?
Nope.
Is it gay? Yeah. You feed the pig hamburgers. There's that little game.
All right.
what is that? No offense.
So let's go through what this looks like. Let's do a first conjugation verb. All right.
This looks. Never mind.
Paro, parare. I'll just do the first 2 principal parts because reasons. Okay, now, my first step is find the infinitive. So what, out of these 2 words that I've written down, paro and parare, which one is my infinitive, everybody? Parare. Okay, so, oops, I didn't want to erase it. I wanted to highlight it. All right, so this is my infinitive. Now, step number 2 says I need to pop the RE off. So we get rid of the RE, and we're left with para. Okay, para is our present stem. Okay, it's the stem.
Oh, so that's not like, it's para, not pop, pure.
It's not part, it's para, yeah. Right, okay, because there's a relationship between vowels and, oh my gosh, consonants.
Do you like vowels?
We need them.
Is there a word with no no vowels in it.
In English or in Latin?
English.
I don't know.
Sky.
Maybe not, you're right.
Maybe some.
Sky.
You're right.
Yeah, but why counts?
Okay, now,
Why cow?
what are my personal endings? Do you guys remember them? OSTMUSTISNT. O or M means I. S means you. T means he, she, or it. Mus means we. Tis means y'all. Nt means they.
It's so silly.
It is very silly.
No offense.
What's over there?
Dora. Okay. So now I'm gonna add my endings. But my question is this correct? So I've got my present stem, para. Oh, is that right?
No.
No.
No. Okay. They actually give you the first answer. It's paro. Okay, so we'll start with paro. But after that, can I use my present stem for the rest of them?
Like
Yeah.
Paras, Pala.
Yep.
Oh, so for nominative singular, you have to use one of those
Wait.
of the endings there.
For-
Like OST, what's this one?
For nominative singular? What do you mean by that?
Like you mean the first person singular.
Because sorry, my first person singular, you use the endings there.
For the first person singular, you just use what they give you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next
But it
week.
does end in an O, right? Just because para-o, like, doesn't that sound like instinctually funny?
Yeah.
Like
It sounds
Neskio
wrong.
And Neskia, like you cannot say Neski owl.
You're on the right track. Not quite, but you're on the right track. Okay, now we're still using our stem here. Paramus, paratis, and parant. Okay, is that fairly clear?
Yeah.
All right. Now, can you tell what conjugation this is?
It cannot be one.
Just by looking at those forms? You can, because if you look at the vowel before the ending, that's going to give you all of your information. That tells me that that's a first conjugation verb.
Wait,
Okay.
So you just match it up with the ARE, ERE, and IRE.
Pretty much.
Wait, so it has to have a macron E for it to be third declension? I mean second declension?
Second conjugation, but
Second conjugation.
yes, but not all of the second conjugation forms have the macron. I'll show you how. Okay, let's do another example.
Like Neskendio. No.
Okay, so the verb habeo. Habeo, habere.
Oh.
Okay, to have.
Can you go back?
Yes, I can.
Latin is Claudia Portunaria and the Villa Habitat.
What the
The most iconic Latin.
Aaron, did you say you're good?
heck? Yeah.
All right, so habeo, habere. Now, which of these two forms that I put up on the board is my infinitive?
Cannot be
Habere. Okay, so we found our infinitive. What needs to pop off?
The ERE.
Not the ERE, but just the RE. Right, Tim L? Is Latin giving you a headache?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so habe is my present stem. Okay, that's what it's given me.
Habanero.
Okay, but am I going to say, well, in this, I guess in this situation it does work. All right, but I'm not adding an O to habe. I'm just taking the first principal part. So I just write that down here. Habe O. Okay. Now, my stem, whoops, it's not babeo. So habeo, the first one does not have a macron, but I believe the rest of them, except for the, never mind. That's a lie.
Do they have to give you the what's
First
the word?
person.
The first person like
Singular.
habio in that situation? Do they have to give it to you so you can understand what to do with it?
They'll always, like, you mean in the dictionary?
No, on like test or quiz in the future, if they tested you on this, would they have to give you the
I personally would,
okay.
and you're gonna be taking my test, so I'll give them to you.
Or AP Latin.
We don't do stuff like this.
Not more.
Once you get to Latin 3, it's not like this anymore.
You're expected to just do it.
Pretty much, yeah.
That one is RE, right?
Habere,
Okay.
E-R-E. Okay, so we've got habeo, habes, habet, no macron though.
Oh, why no macron for habes?
For whatever reason,
That sounds like Tibet.
the vowel that precedes personal endings before T and NT are short. I have no idea why, but that's just, it's a typical rule. So even though,
What
This
would it
is-
sound if it's long? Habes?
Habetes.
I still pronounce it the same way. Habes, habet.
Wait, so you're pretty much saying there can't be a macron before T or NT?
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so it's habemus, habetis.
It sounds weird from my,
But am I gonna put a macron over the E in habent?
No.
No.
Of course not.
No. Okay.
I feel like English has some things like that.
Yeah, they're like random
Just
rules.
Some like technical like oddities. Like for example, just with words, like in a what's the word? When you have an instrument, you play it. But when you have a play, you perform it.
That makes sense. Okay, now, mito mitere. What conjugation is this verb?
I guess it's
Third.
third.
It's a third conjugation. That E, is it weak?
Of course.
Yes.
Okay, because it's a weak vowel, wow, I'm forgetting words for things. Because it's a weak vowel, it has to change its identity. Okay, so this is gonna be slightly different than what we just saw. All right, so we're still gonna find our infinitive. We're still gonna pop off the RE, but because this is a third conjugation, this E turns into an I.
Only in third conjugation.
Like mitet.
So, so our first form, we're just gonna write what they've given us, mito. Okay, then we're gonna use our stem, M-I-T-T-E? No, M-I-T-T-I. Okay, so mito, mitis,
That sounds weird.
mitit,
Mit-
mitimus, mititis, and mitunt.
Why is it so funny?
Okay, now also note here that this is not mitint, that I becomes a U.
Is that just in the case of things like that, where it's?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, well,
why
if,
would you have to change it to you?
well, think of it this way, instinctually, if I said mitint, does that sound correct to you?
Yes.
It sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so instinctually, you already know that something's gotta change in that word. Okay, if that didn't instinctually sound weird to you, eventually it will, you'll get used to it, okay?
So we're changing the last one only.
Well, for originally, you have to change the E to an I for most of them, and then for the last one, the I becomes a U. Okay? And that's all because the E in the original form is weak.
And for the infinitive, we don't use RE.
How do you mean?
Like that one that you highlight. We don't use RE for infinitive, we only end with E.
No, you, like, if I want to say that I want to send a letter, I would say wolo. I'd still use the infinitive, mitere. Right? But the only reason we're getting rid of the RE is for conjugating purposes. Okay, and when we conjugate, you're making a verb form that stands on its own, like is usable on its own. It can take a subject and potentially a direct object. Okay.
Can I have a break now?
What?
Can I have a 5-minute break?
A break?
Yeah.
No.
You're not all workers.
Yes.
Okay. Last one. Well, second to last one. Let's do an IO. Okay, yakio, yakere. All right, it's a third IO, okay, meaning it's third conjugation, but the first principal part has an IO form, right, Jonathan? Sleepy boy?
Throw the baseball. Whatever. It's a baseball.
Okay. So we find our second principal part, we pop off the RE, but what's gonna happen? This E is weak, so what must it become?
I.
Has to become an I. Except for the end, when it's gonna become a U. Okay, well, kind of. Okay, so, yakio, we just write the first form that they've given us. Okay, now my stem is I-A-C-E?
No.
No, it's I. So yakis, yakit,
Yakimus.
yakimus, yakitis. All right, and this is where it gets a little weird. Does yakunt sound right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's an I-O, it's not going to be yakunt, it's going to be yakiunt. It's kind of annoying. So it's I-A-C-I-U-N-T.
This is so unique.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It's like, what does yakio mean?
To throw.
What is window in that?
Fenestra, fenestrae. All right, last one. Okay, we still got to do a fourth conjugation. So audio, audire. All right, it's a fourth conjugation verb. Find your infinitive. Pop off the RE. Okay, now there's no vowel change here. There's no vowel change because that I has a macron. It's strong. It holds its identity. Okay, so we just copy the first form because they've given it to us. So it's audio. Now we use our present stem. Audis. Audit. Am I going to put a macron over the I in audit?
Yeah.
No. Right, because it doesn't go over the third person singular or plural. Okay. Audimus, which has a macron. Auditis. And Audi. Am I gonna just say audint? What do you think it's gonna be?
Audio.
Audiunt. Good.
It sounds right.
That sounds right. Yep.
No, actually we have done this before, I think.
Yeah, we did this pretty early on.
Yeah,
Is that the last one?
that's the last one. Okay. So for homework, what I'm gonna have you guys do, in your textbook, you're gonna do exercise 10B on page 73. All right, and all that is, they're giving you 15 verbs.
Is that gonna be on the portal?
I'll put it on the portal. It's 15 verbs. You have to identify which conjugation that verb belongs to. And then I'm gonna pick maybe 5 of those, and you're going to have to conjugate those 5
In class?
for homework.
Oh, for homework.
Okay, so I'll put the directions on the portal. I'll specify what you need to do. Okay, but it's gonna be a 2-part exercise. Okay, just so you get the practice of doing this. All right? Great.